Shangi Okay, let's do the four limitless contemplation. May all beings have happiness and create the causes of happiness. May they all be free from suffering and creating the causes of suffering. May they find that noble happiness which can never be tainted by suffering. May they attain universal impartial compassion, free of worldly bias towards friends and enemies. Semjen damje dewa tang dewe ju tang den pa ju chik, dungal tang dungal chichu tang drawa ju chik, dungal mepe dewa tampa tang min drawa ju chik, ne ring chak tang ni tang drawe tang nom chempo la ne pa ju chik. Very important prayer that you can even have that as your whole practice if you really want to. It's a very, very good one. And I did a teaching on it the other night. So if you want it, you can look it up. It was in the suffering one, the last one of the suffering one. I did a teaching on that. Okay, so today we're going to be learning about death with the total heart, part 6. This is. And we've got this one and next one. And then I'm going to finish in August. I'm not going to do any teaching. I'm going overseas, first of all. But apart from that, I think it's good to have a little break. I'm sure you must get so sick of my voice and sick of me. Yeah. So I think it's also a good thing to have a break. You know, a lot of people have gone away now in July, but August is the time we're going away. So I want to finish these, and then we'll have 7 videos. So any of the death and dying teachings you're not sure of, go back. That's why they're there. And Bernice and Edith are doing such an amazing job because now they're putting all the YouTubes together so that people can easily get them. And it's really, really going to be very, very simple just to go back and get them. So use that time. It's a lot of teaching, but if you understand the basis of this teaching while you are still in a physical body, then it really follows quite simply. You can leave out all the details and still find some form of liberation from samsara in the bardos. Now, I want to just do a Chang Tzu quote to start with. He says, one man will dream of the banquet hour, but wake to lamentation and sorrow. Another will dream of lamentation and sorrow, but wake to enjoy himself in the hunting field. While men are dreaming, they do not perceive it is a dream. Some will even have a dream within a dream. And only when they awake do they know that it was all a dream. And so only when the great awakening comes upon us shall we know this life to be a great dream. Fools believe themselves to be awake now. That's such a beautiful quote because when we know it's all a dream, it's so much easier when you go into the Bardo teaching. And Anam Tupten, in his book, you know, the Sacred Compass, he says, in essence, the Bardo teachings are not to be regarded as some kind of esoteric knowledge. No, not at all. Instead, they are very practical teachings to help us to live, die, and even continue consciously with awareness when we really know them. With awareness, courage, and love, not with fear, hatred, and delusion, he says. Therefore, these Bardo teachings are priceless. And I just want you, for 1 minute, we're going to go on to the last 2 Bardos. So I'm going to try and make last week's teaching simpler for you. I'm just doing it in my own words after this. But when you need to use these teachings in your everyday life, and you need to actually see how the mandala of Guru Rinpoche works. I mean, how did we get to have these teachings left for us in termas? How did we get to have them? It's an absolute miracle. I mean, you know, over different ages, these teachings weren't available. And we've got them available. Now, for me, it's so tragic that people don't use them to really help themselves in every way. We need to use them because it's a real privilege that they've been left. And you've got to all understand that with the coming of Maitreya, because of how horrible people have been towards each other, Maitri, which means loving kindness, will be the main part of everything on this earth plane, because we have to get people to go back and be kind to each other. But these very high tantric teachings, the teaching won't be available anymore, just to the few that really can relate. So I want you to understand how it is. And Dzongsa Khyentse in his book says, everything that happens to us in life and death absolutely depends entirely on our accumulated causes and conditions. As each of us will experience physical death and the dissolution of the body's elements quite differently, our journeys through the bardos will be unique. So descriptions of the death, dying, and bardos are generalizations. You will see it as you can see it, not as I'm telling you, and not as the book says it. Remember that, because like I've been really trying to help this older woman that I told you about who died. And I mean, she's got no Buddhist terminology, and her children are very keen that I should help her. Now she's come to the bardo of becoming, which is the last bardo. And it's so difficult for me to try and help her release herself because she doesn't understand that in any way. So up until this point, I could help her very nicely. But now I found that it's really difficult. So I have told her what the bardo of becoming is, but I can't really help her to release herself because she doesn't know how. So, we've got to remember that it's very, very important, even if you don't get it in the beginning. When you come to the bardo of becoming, when you see all your karma in front of you and your causes and conditions, you really, really, really you have to really be able to recognize them and not go straight in and get involved in them. Because let's say you were a nice person, but basically you did some really awful things in your life. You're going to see that, okay? So rather work it out now while you're in love and don't get excitable about what you see, because it's only temporary and transient. So don't get involved in what you see. And he says, even though it's a generalization, nevertheless, once dying has begun, to have a rough idea goes a long way to allay fears and helps us to face death calmly and with equanimity. That's what we want. We just don't want to get excited by things, okay? And just remember the three most important points at death. And whoever you are helping, give them these three important points, okay? Point number one, non-attachment to anything we're leaving behind in this life. Family, possessions, your businesses, whatever you're leaving behind, non-attachment. And also don't attach to unfinished business. Okay, if you've got certain things you've really done with people, try and finish it with those people. Try not to leave unfinished business when you get to the gates, the portals of death, because whatever you need to do, do it now. And if you can't do it with that person, then at least do it in your mind, see the person, ask them for forgiveness, or whatever the case is, finish your business so that none of that is important to you anymore. I see this in my dream state. I don't have so many experiences nowadays. I think I'm too tired, but I used to have millions of experience, not million, lots of experiences with people who died. And they were always fighting with me and fighting with me and fighting with me. I remember this one young guy who got killed on a motorbike, and he said to me, Melanie, just tell me I'm not dead. And I said, how can I tell you that? It would be a lie. He said, but I must go back. I must go and help my wife and little children. She'll never manage. I said, you don't know that because you don't know what her potential is, because you always nurtured her like a little hen. So you never gave her the chance. And I remember fighting and fighting and fighting with him because he didn't want to be dead. And trying to explain to him, when I woke up in the morning, I felt as though somebody had attacked my body, because that's what happens when people are fighting against what they are doing. And attachment of any description, Tulku Urchin says, don't be attached to a reel of cotton. Don't be attached to a string, because that'll keep you back. And I know that's one of the things when people are not enlightened, they have a terrible time when people are calling them all the time. Come back, mommy, what should I do with this? Mommy, help me in the bardos. Such a wrong thing. Don't be attached, because halfway through, you're going to start being interested in where you're going and not in that. So finish it and don't be attached. That's point number one. Point number two, recognition, which I say over and over again. I'm just giving you the 3 points quickly, and then we're going straight into it. Recognition, re-knowing. Remember that, re-knowing your true nature. This is the optimal time of your whole life to recognize, to know again. You know, we say to someone whom we haven't seen for years, wow, I hardly recognized you. Now, you're not going to say that to your primordial purity. Wow, I hardly recognized you. You're going to say, hello, I've been waiting for you my whole life. Didn't you see me struggling in meditation? I was waiting for you to present yourself. Wow, I recognize you. I re-know you. You're part of me. And the third point in the Bardo teachings is liberation. What does the word mean? It means to free yourself. It's the big word in the Tibetan Book of Death. Now remember, liberation can take place on many different levels, from the highest to the lowest. Amazing. We get many different chances to completely liberate ourselves, many different chances, or at least some smaller level, depending on our training. Liberation means to free ourselves to some degree from the endless cycle of birth and death. And so not be catapulted by our own created karma into yet another birth on one of the levels of samsara, releasing ourselves from the cycle. So to recognize, we've put attachment, but the three things are recognizing, realizing, liberating. Remember those, because they're really very important. Recognizing, realizing, and liberating. And Zongsa gives a quote, and I've put in front of it, remember his quote. He says, without having to do anything at all, the process we naturally go through as we die brings us face to face with the ground of liberation. Face to face with the ground of liberation. At the moment of death, he says, mind separates from body for a split second. For some, it'll be for all the time. For many people who are ignorant, it'll still be for a split second. You know, when the two inner that I've talked about, and go back and read them, when they come together, they say it's a dark light experience. So at that moment when the light shows, even for the most ignorant people, they will see the light for a split second. And he says, every one of us in that moment experiences the nakedness of our Buddha nature. And in that split second, okay, we experience, if the ground of liberation is pointed out and we recognize it, we will be liberated. I mean, it's amazing. The moment of death offers a huge opportunity. Now, that's all I want to say in the introduction, because I think these things are very useful for us, okay? Because I think when you know these kind of things, it gives you a little bit of confidence about the whole of death and dying. It's such an exciting thing. I want you to understand something from this teaching before I go on to the Bardo Dhamma, when it is about the Bardo Dhammata. You know, this beautiful teaching that I gave on a Tuesday about the Saha world. The Saha world is our world of, it's our world of samsara, where we live. Okay. Now, Shakyamuni said that since attaining Buddhahood in a very remote past, he's continually instructing people in the Saha world, in our world. And the Saha means to endure. That's all we're doing is enduring. And yet people are totally, involved with it. Now, he says a long time ago, he separated the Saha world from the Pure Lands. So what he was teaching people was, you living in the suffering, enduring world, there are other worlds, Pure Lands. And if you try and journey along this path, you'll be able to get there. That's how he taught them, because that's how their minds operated. But later, he says, they were pre-Lotus Sutra teaching. Later, he says, I'm not going to teach that on a relative level. You know what? He says, you in the Saha world are exactly simultaneously in the Pure Land. You just have to wake up. You don't have to journey somewhere to get to a Pure Land. You just have to wake up. And then with beings like Amitabha, Guru Rinpoche, and all of them making sacrifices for us so that we could get there, you could just wake up. Even in the Bardo Becoming, you could wake up. We'll talk about that. But what is important is he told the truth. He said, where you are is a pure land. You just have to recognize it. Now, a lot of you will say, how can it be with all the fighting, with the terrorism, with the wars? How can it be a pure land? But you see, that vision is what we see with our conditioned human causes and conditions. We see it in that way. As soon as we liberate the mind, what we see becomes pure illusory, not impure illusory. Do you all understand that, or do you need more explanation? Because it's already there. So actually, we should be walking around the world now and saying, look at this wall, but let me look again with the wisdom eye. I'm trying to open my wisdom eye so I can try and give you something. There are actually 3 wisdom eyes, but we won't go into that. It's too difficult to understand. But you know what? You open your wisdom eye. Instead of seeing the rubbish, you will start to see the elements in their pure state as beautiful, vivid colors. Like Edith, tell them what happened with your experience that you texted me, please, because it's really important that people understand that. Tell us. Share your words rather than mine. They get sick of my voice. You're not
unmute yourself, Edith.
Yeah.
Right. I was driving in my car, and it suddenly, everything just changed. Everything opened up. I don't know how to, and I stopped the car, and I just looked around me, and I realized it was that feeling of absolute connection with every single thing and it just, the colors were vibrant, everything. It didn't last forever.
No.
But it was there. And for that time that it lasted, the feeling was so overwhelming, I just wept. It was just the most loving, amazing feeling just to have that absolute connection. It was.
And my aspiration is that you all have an experience like Edith. You've just got to have one. Patricia, you've often had that experience, but you just have that experience once. And then you know with conviction, it was never supposed to be this dualistic sour world. It was supposed to be a magnificent world of color, of beautiful qualities, enlightened qualities in beings on the earth. And I'm part of them and they're part of me. Now, her experience was magic. And I know, Nicola, you also do when you're in nature, have a lot of those kind of experience, those moments. Those moments are so precious if you open your eyes. And that is what the bardo of Dharmata. Last week, a few people texted me and said to me afterwards, Melanie, it's very complicated. We have to try and get our heads around it. We have to try and understand. So today, okay, maybe it sounds complex, but it's actually not at all complex. So back to a simple version of the bardo of Dharmata without any complexity. Okay, my own version. So let's go back very briefly. We're not doing it a lot, and then we'll do a meditation deeply on the different wisdoms. But if you take the three visions, I've just been talking about them, okay? Impure, illusory vision. That's how we see on this earth plane. It's absolutely clouded by our conditioning, our family conditioning, our causes and conditions, our karma. That's what we see. James Lowe always says, you say to your friend, oh, you must go and see this movie. It's the most wonderful and it's beautifully acted. Maybe the friend doesn't think that. Maybe the friend doesn't think it's a wonderful movie. I mean, when you really think about it, we're always giving our beliefs, what we feel from our perspective. That's called the impure illusory vision. Then we've got the pure illusory vision, which I've just told you about, which is when we see things, now we're seeing the true expression from the essence. So the essence is the Dharmakaya. Out of it comes the Sambhogakaya, and we are able to see it. Unfortunately, only a few beings can see it because you have to have reached a certain bodhisattva level in order to see the Sambhogakaya level, these pure lands within your own mind. You have to have reached a certain level before you could see them. But that's the pure illusory, still illusory, because it goes back, it changes. We see it in our own way, even the pure illusory, which is the bardo of Dharmata that we're coming to. And then the final one is, as it is, truly as it is, the Dharmakaya. Now, Karen, like she says, and I can hear it, her experience is always of the as it is. And my experience, I find it really difficult to get to see that Dharmakaya. Occasionally I have little glimpses, but for me, it's a lot easier to see the how it creates. It's much easier for my mind to see the beautiful creations that come out of the Dharmakaya than the Dharmakaya itself. I think it's just the way we all made. Some people can just sit in meditation for a year and never budge, okay? People like me who've got active minds, it's really difficult because, and I need to have some activity. I go much better when I'm doing a tantric practice than when I'm just sitting in shamatha and then vipassana. I do the one much easier than the other. I think it's your way of your mind. Some of us have got more activity in our lives and others are quieter. And so I think there's something for everybody here. But seeing it as it is how the Buddha sees it. So he sees everything. He sees you just as you are, not how you are in this life at all, okay? Now, in the bardos, we go backwards with these three visions, okay? So the first bardo of dying, when the elements are dissolving, we see things we have a chance, rather, to see things as they are. The primordial purity, the pure Dharmakaya. That's what Dzongsa is talking about when we have that moment when the inner elements dissolve and we have a moment to see that Dharmakaya. So in the bardo, the first bardo, you have that chance. Then when you come to the second bardo, this bardo we're talking about, Dharmata, you get the pure illusory vision in front of you of how the essence expresses itself in pure form. And it's called the Sambhogakaya level. Remember, the Dharmakaya is the essence. And the Dharmakaya knows everything of itself, okay? But because there are all these beings that don't understand, the Dharmakaya puts forward the Sambhogakaya for those who can rise to the pure illusory level, and then the Nirmanakaya for the poor mortals like us who can't see it. But the Nirmanakaya is still pure, but it functions in this world. Try and understand this, then you'll understand. I'm going to give you a chance to ask in a minute. Okay, but it's called the Sambhogakaya level. But you have to reach a particular state before you can see it. So I certainly am nowhere near that state, but I'm trying to train my wisdom eye to start looking, to see the colors, to see the beings, to see the bindus. The bindus are those beautiful, like what Karen's got on her thing. The round rainbow light color out of which the beautiful deities come. And the deities are just qualities. That's all they are. So briefly and simply, we have our ordinary samsaric human part of us in this world we live in. We have 8 consciousnesses. I'm not going into the details, just 5 sense ones. One that makes a label. This is a book. This is a watch. This is a cup. And the 7th one is called the klesha consciousness, when you go, I like this and I want it. I don't like this and I don't want this. And I'm neutral. That's the 7th consciousness. And the 8th consciousness is the alaya consciousness, where the imprints are, okay, which is really important and everything. One American girl wrote and said that she was listening to Viktor Frankl, and he was talking in a different way to me about the karmic imprints, and she could see my hand going like this into the imprints, That's how I've taught it. So all of you have been with me. You all go, you've got these karmic imprints, in the alaya consciousness, exactly. But what we're looking at is the pure Vajra, awakened part, is always right here within the physical structure that we are in. But it's obscured. It's obscured by our physical, habitual, samsaric, negative emotional patterns that we've had for many lifetimes. When the inner elements dissolve of our body, at that time, when the bindu from the father and the bindu from the mother come together, all the negative emotions are gone. Emaho, you just look at that. So you've then got a chance. Without all your negative emotions, you've got a chance to see what is there. It's so amazing. When you really understand that, you'll say, how did it work like that? That when the elements dissolve finally, all the negative emotions of anger, the passions, the delusions, they're all gone. So what you've got is you've got the most amazing opportunity, open portal to unity, because all the negative emotions of that 7th consciousness are gone. So you're free. You're actually free to see. And I want all of you to see. It's really important that you do. Okay. And we are now at that moment when we enter the bardo of Dhammata in a pure illusory state, which the Sambhogakaya, which arises out of the Dharmakaya. Now, first of all, they're always the three bodies. Everything comes out of the three bodies. Everything comes back into the three bodies, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. As I've explained them, ask me if you want more. But apart from that, we have got 5 wisdoms. That's how it expresses itself on the Sambhogakaya level. 5 wisdoms, and you can call the 5 wisdoms 5 awarenesses, or 5 ways of knowing reality, or 5 different enlightened viewpoints. It doesn't matter how you explain it, as 5 wisdom, 5 enlightened viewpoints, 5 ways of knowing reality, 5 awarenesses. It doesn't matter. But that is what you are recognizing in this bardo. It's called, it's shown to us what's inside us, that I'm battling to try and get what's inside of us, is now outside of us. Those 5 wisdoms. And it's so amazing because they're in front of our eyes. It's called luminosity or spontaneous presence, our true nature. It's really inside of us, but it's projected outside of us for us to see. And our own version, each of these 5 have names, families, color, feminine and masculine Buddhas, and their entourages. 100 aspects in all. But the 100 aspects, when you see it, it goes into many with the entourage. It's 100 qualities that we've got inside our beautiful awakened heart. But the 100 qualities are multiplied by all the entourages. Now, I want you to just think of this, okay? That when we are in this body, what happens is, I told you last time, we like inside out because we're in all the physical things that there are with the coarse elements. Now the whole body is turned inside out. And now we are who we really are. We are able to see it. If you get one thing of this, you are there. Now remember, when the thing turns inside out, what happens? Our 5 elements that we are made of, I think you all agree, we all made up of earth, fire, water, space, and air and space. Okay, those are 5. The 5 elements, instead of the coarseness of our bodies, which get wrinkled and sick and everything, they now become 5. They now are shown. Let's not say they become. They are shown as 5 female Buddhas. Now, I train my mind to see those female Buddhas, to look at pictures of them. Are they external? Are they Buddhas? No, they're just the 5 elements really free. The 5 skandhas of what we made of: form, our feelings, our perception, our habits, and our consciousness, all of those now become the 5 masculine Buddhas. And when you play with these, when you take the crystal and you play with them, and you play with all the aspects of them, all the colors that they are, you begin to learn, oh, that Buddha is actually this skandha cleared up. That's how you begin to do it. Like Ratnasambhava, I know that Ratnasambhava is the feelings cleared up. I know that Amitabha is the perceptions cleared up when you see it really, truly. Okay, each one is one of those skandhas, and Bern will give you the what's her name, the what you call it? I've got so many things running. She'll give you that if you really want it. The tablet with it all on, if you really want it. And I play with it all the time. So the 5 skandhas: form, feelings, perceptions, habits, and consciousness, become the 5 masculine Buddhas. The 5 poisons. What are the 5 poisons become? What are the 5 poisons? ignorant or delusions. You know, when someone keeps telling you such a delusional story and you know they're just talking rubbish. Ignorance or delusion, pride, ignorance, delusion, pride, anger, and the passions. All of those become 5 kinds of awakened knowledge, awakened wisdom. They become the wisdoms, the poisons, when they're free, and they're free at that point, become the wisdoms. And you see them. And they were just distortions of our enlightened energy. And you've got 5 families, and you learn to know the families, what they represent, what they are. Like me, the minute I will see the Lotus family, goodbye, I'm running to them like nobody's business, okay? I know they're red. I know the perception is transformed. I know all the aspects of it. I know that they are the Lotus family. And I know that the passions, all the desires and everything have turned into discriminating awareness. So you play with them. You can get the chart. I don't have a problem, but don't stick with the chart. Play with them. Photograph them, Iga. Photograph them everywhere in the world where you see through your camera lens all sorts of things. Edith, draw it. Draw what you think you see. Okay, sorry. Just let me see that question. I'm going to give you a chance right now to ask as many. Okay, she's got the tablet there. When you've got it, that's fine. Bern will give it to you. Okay, so each one is a mandala. What does a mandala mean? I've given you a lot of teaching. In the center of a mandala is the male and female aspects of the Buddhas in union, because it's always the masculine and the feminine. Okay, then you have the retinue, and you have the color, and you have the element, which element has been purified, and you have the direction. You know, like the Lotus family is in the western direction of the mandala, of the whole mandala, of all of them together. You learn the direction. You learn their enlightened qualities, what they mean. And I'm going to give you a meditation on that now. But what you've got to understand is when you come to this bardo, most of us will come to this bardo, okay? We probably won't recognize, we may recognize the clear light in the first bardo. We come to this bardo, this is where we see what we see. And how they present themselves when they teach you in the Tibetan Book of the Dead is vivid colors. Those are the bodies, the Vajra bodies of the deities. They're not real deities, they're your quality. Vivid sound. They say the sound is so loud. Now, I hear the sound, but I hear it very gently. But the sound when you are there is very, very, very forceful. Do not be afraid. That is the mantra speech of the deities. That's their mantra speech. And the vivid rays of light, they're so vivid that for somebody untrained, they go, oh my God, this is too much for me. Not for any of you. The rays of light are the mind. So you've got body in the vivid colors, sound in the loud sound. They say it's like 1,000 thunderbolts, and rays of light, the mind of the deity. And they present themselves in front of you, first in exquisite form, exquisite. You look at them, you don't know what to look at first because it's so exquisite. And then if you don't recognize, then they say they come in the wrathful forms. Are they really wrathful deities? No. These are the beautiful, peaceful deities going, wake up. Wake up. Don't go on to another incarnation where you encapsulated in a body. Don't. Wake up. We're coming to shock you. Okay. Now think about it. So they're supposed to be 58 wrathful forms. Sometimes they say semi-wrathful and wrathful, and 42 peaceful manifestations of all of them that come forward. Okay, they wake us up. They're not wrathful at all. So that's what we see in front of us. I hope that this is simple. I just wrote this out. I didn't take it from any book, so you could really try and understand. And what you are doing when you are pondering this in your life, ponder where you belong. What makes sense to you? What do you feel excited about? What makes sense to you in each of these 5 ways of knowing reality? You see, for me, the Lotus family makes absolute sense to me because the things they do, Amitabha, Chenrezig, Guru Rinpoche, the things they do make absolute sense to my being. Okay, some people find, no, I love the wisdom of the Dharmata. It's open and huge and really, really, really can be amazing. You know, you will find what resonates with you. Okay, questions, and then we're going to do a beautiful meditation from Anam Thupten's book. We're going to go through the five, but just do it in a meditation, not writing. But ask me. It doesn't matter how basic your question is. Ask me. Yes, please, Damika.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfectly.
I didn't understand Niyamanakaya.
Okay.
So Dharmakaya, it's impure, right?
No, Dharmakaya is the pure, absolute primordial consciousness as it is. So the Buddha operates from the Dharmakaya, which is he sees things as they are. Everything. You can know the relative and the ultimate. Okay. So
that's I wanted the clarification. So then
Sambhogakaya is the pure illusory vision, the pure, what I've just described now. Okay, but only some people who've reached that point can get to see it. And the Nirmanakaya, it's so beautiful because if you look at, say, Buddha Shakyamuni, when he came onto the planet, okay, he came through a mother, he came through the usual channels of a human being, but he was in a Nirmanakaya. Now, a Nirmanakaya can have many different forms. It can even be a bridge. It can even be a piece of food. It can even be an animal. The Nirmanakaya can change just according to what people's needs are, but it still comes from that pure state. It's right out of the Sambhogakaya to the Nirmanakaya, but it's a form that ordinary people can relate to. That's how the Buddha did it. That's how Guru Rinpoche did it too. But he came in a lotus. He didn't come through parents in the 8th century. He's probably been millions and millions of times, you know, on our level. But when he came in a lotus, which is that very special Nirmanakaya that doesn't have to go through birth anymore. But you can see him and relate to him, and he can leave things and teach. It's exquisite. You know, the Nirmanakaya teaching is exquisite to see how they are, you know, in that Nirmanakaya form, totally enlightened, but here for one reason, for the sake of sentient beings, to help them, you know. It's really amazing. Sorry, he goes mad. If a bee comes in here, this poor dog, he must have a karmic imprint from a few, I don't know, from so many. If a bee comes in, he goes running after rats, but a bee, he can go absolutely berserk. You know, if a bee comes anywhere near, look, he's gone off.
Melanie, one last thing,
Please.
sorry. So you said when we die, there are 3 things to not to have the attachment, recognition, and liberation. So if someone is enlightened in this life through meditation, when they die, okay, the body, physical body, we leave the mind, and what separate, and then that mind, what happens to that mind? Is it?
You see, that mind can, if it is enlightened, it can actually choose exactly what it does. Like if you take Guru Rinpoche, when Yeshe Tsogyal's crying because he's gone, he's going to go and subjugate some really bad things that are going to have an effect on the earth. And she's crying, and he says to her, don't weep, because my separation of body and mind is different to how you all separate at body and mind. He goes back to the mandala, the Dharmakaya, but from the Dharmakaya, he goes back to the whole mandala of the lotus family. But from there, he can emanate millions upon millions upon millions of emanations. Do you understand? Wherever there is a need, not only on planet Earth, in all the universes, he can manifest everywhere. So did Mandarava, so did Yeshe Tsogyal. They just go back to the mandala, and from there, they can emanate wherever they need to go. Now, when I hear this, it really makes me so excited because, I go when I'm doing my Yeshe Tsogyal and Mandarava prayers, I go, I dance an apprenticeship with you when I come back. I want to just go and sit next to them and absorb everything that I can learn from them. That's what I want to do. I don't want to come back in a little body unless it's necessary, but I want to be able to go everywhere. So like when I read about Guru Rinpoche, I'm so glad that he actually says he emanates hundreds of compassionate forms into Tibet, because I always feel so bad about Tibet that, the masters have all left. We've got the beautiful teaching, and what about Tibet, And I think to myself, well, I'm so glad that Guru Rinpoche is emanating all over Tibet as well still, even though he's left. Do you know what I mean? So they're beautiful when you understand these teachings of the three kayas. They are just the most beautiful teachings on earth, really, that we could have. Okay. Any other questions? Anything that's not clear to you? Is it easier how I've done it today? Can you understand? Just tell me, because I want to know that you can understand. Bern, can everybody understand, do you think? Marion's not here, she's gone away. But I always take her as a thing, because if she understands, then I know it's okay. Anybody have anything they want to ask? Anybody have anything they're not sure? Don't think it's too simple. It's really important. Do you, Ev? Everybody. All right, then let's do a meditation. Listen, you've had all of these, quite a lot from me. So it should really be very helpful when I go through it like this. But I don't care if you don't know it exactly now. Just see that when you die, you know it. Okay, so give yourself this chance from now until you die to actually learn it and understand it in your heart, and you'll be okay. Even if you don't wake up in this bardo, we're going to do the bardo of becoming the karmic bardo of becoming the last bardo, and you can still wake up due to Amitabha's kindness, due to Chenrezi's kindness. So let's do a meditation. I'm going to give you a Nam Tupten's beautiful descriptions of be there. So I want you to all imagine. I want you to breathe in and breathe out and come to this moment. I want you deep in your hearts to feel the privilege of knowing these teachings. Amazing. Emaho. I just want you to feel how grateful, the gratitude for knowing these teachings. Now I want you to pretend that the Buddha or Guru Rinpoche is here. And he says to all of you, close your eyes, and I'm going to take you on a journey through the 5 wisdoms. I'm going to take you on a journey so that you will know as you come through them exactly how you feel. So what he says is, the 5 wisdoms are not to be understood as separate from each other. Just as you describe one thing that has different aspects, you might like to think that the enlightened mind has different qualities. There is only one enlightened mind, not separate consciousnesses. Yet enlightened mind is very dynamic and has all these attributes. It's not some kind of static, one-dimensional awakening, such as awakening to the truth of no self. Enlightened mind has all the wholesome qualities. Now I want you to enter mirror-like wisdom. I want you to think of mirror-like wisdom, Vajrasattva or Akshobhya, probably right in the middle of your mandala. I want you to go into mirror-like wisdom. It's white in color, okay? And the mirror is used as a simile to describe the reflective aspect of the mind. A mirror reflects images, but they are not real. Walk around in your mind in this mirror-like wisdom. A mirror does not grasp at what arises in it. In the same way, with mirror-like wisdom, and you are right in it, things appear, but they are not solid, so you don't grasp at any of them. In addition, the enlightened mind is not a meditative absorption where all the appearances of the world are blocked. It is vibrant, clear, and perceives whatever exists. This mirror-like wisdom can perceive everything from the 5 senses to the very sacred in an unobstructed and intelligent way. Images would not appear in a mirror if it were obstructed. Enlightened mind has the quality of being like a clear mirror. There is space for everything to arise. Unobstructed mind is free, open, spacious, and nothing hinders it or gets in its way. So it can experience everything. Now think of Vajrasattva or Akshobhya, they are similes, okay? And think of Mamaki, the beautiful female Buddha, and think of the element water, the pure white water of the mirror-like wisdom pours over everything. When you do the Vajrasattva practice, it pours over you, cleansing you, healing you. All the anger and aggression is healed. That is your mirror-like wisdom. Now move into the next wisdom, the wisdom of equanimity, or the equalizing wisdom. The equalizing wisdom means that the enlightened mind welcomes everything equally, just as whatever image arises in the mirror is neither good or bad. One thing is not better than another. So stop fighting with yourself. Everything is equal. No matter what you're doing in your life, no matter where you're going, no matter if you're a bee or an insect or an animal, you all have Buddha nature. That's the wisdom of equality. photograph it in your mind, okay? One thing is not better than another. Everything in the whole universe is perceived to have a sameness, an equality. Everything has the same taste, which is a radical realization to our egoic mind. Our ego mind is constantly seeing everything through the lens of duality. It is always judging, accepting, rejecting, putting everything into pigeonholes of good, bad, sacred, not sacred, repulsive, attractive, and so forth. You are in this wisdom of equality, walking around the beautiful mandala. It is golden yellow in its color. Ratnasambhava is this beautiful Buddha who you want to offer everything to in this beautiful yellow color. The earth is the element that is purified. So imagine everything is offered up because the earth is rich in what it can offer, and you are walking around the richness of Ratnasambhava and his beautiful consort called Buddha Lochana. And when you are walking around this wisdom of equality or equanimity, you feel that absolute peace. And the skanda that is purified is the feelings. All the feelings are transmuted into their beautiful counterpart, the earth element, and everything is equal, rich, full. And that is the wisdom of equality. Now walk around the crystal into the third wisdom, the wisdom of discernment, or the discriminating wisdom. Even though everything is perceived as equal, as the same taste, it is not a hodgepodge or some big pile of mush like mashed potatoes. The enlightened mind sees everything clearly. Otherwise, enlightenment would not be desirable. It has the intelligence to discern, to clearly distinguish one thing from another. We have ultimate truth and relative truth. The wisdom of discernment can discern everything, one from another. And it clearly distinguishes knowing all the characteristics of everything that exists. It sees the role each thing's play. It sees fire as fire, water as water. It doesn't mix them all up. Discernment is an intelligence that can figure out all the complex situations in our life in the spirit of non-judgment, without any aversion. Now, when we look at the wisdom of discernment, this is Amitabha's land. It is red, rich as well, red, absolute red. The red represents the passion for the Dharma, the passion, the feeling of aliveness for the Dharma. Amitabha's beautiful consort, you see them in the middle of the mandala, is Pandarasini, the beautiful Buddha. And here you are looking at the most beautiful, beautiful state. You can even go into one of the pure lands of Devachan when you go here. It's red, it's discerning, it's everything that you need. And the perception, because it's the wisdom of discernment, the perception is clear. It never ever gets mixed up in any way or any form. So we leave the red part of the crystal, and we go into the wisdom of perfected action, or even called sometimes the wisdom of accomplishment. It's the next aspect of the awakened mind. Enlightenment is not some absolute rest or retirement from the world. The awakened mind doesn't just sit there with its own pure joy and freedom, but is motivated to help others as an expression of love and compassion. This motivation is due to the wisdom of perfected action. We are more motivated and more able to benefit others as this wisdom becomes part of our awakening. And it is not helping people from your ego point of view. It's allowing the wisdom of perfected action to go right through you so that you can help and serve. You are in a green color, green. Imagine this beautiful green color. And the Buddha is Amoghasiddhi, and his consort is called Samaya Tara, the beautiful green Tara. And they work together in this beautiful, beautiful way. And the terrible poison is envy and jealousy. When people are envious and jealous of other people, this is now purified into the wisdom of perfected action. The right people are in the right places when we are enlightened, ready to do everything. It's awakened mind. And these two are absolutely pure. And the poison is that envy and jealousy. So we are looking, they are called the Karma family, Karma, green. And that is the wisdom of perfected action. And finally, we go into the last part of the mandala, the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu, okay? The wisdom of complete spaciousness, the Dharmadhatu. It's the aspect of enlightened mind that sees the nature of everything clearly, which is expressed as no self, emptiness, or all-pervasive sacredness. This may be one of the most important aspects of the wisdom mind. Often the ordinary human mind does not see the nature of all things. It is often subtly or grossly deluded. In our everyday life, we have no doubt that we are seeing reality and are under the impression of what we see is real. We think that the smaller reality of events and interpersonal dramas happening each day are true. As for the bigger reality, the sense of meaning of life, of who we are, of the absolute, our understanding of these may be deluded, because delusion is the opposite of the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu. Our understanding may not be based on truth itself, but filtered through our own mind, our own belief systems, and our own ideology. Enlightened mind, on the other hand, sees the nature of reality as it is without superimposing any kind of interpretation upon it. This is very important because all human suffering comes from not seeing the nature of reality. Seeing is the beginning of liberation. And the color is blue, 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 much bluer than the blue sky. When we look at this, it's absolutely open and absolutely exquisite. And when we look at it, it's Varashana is the beautiful Buddha, and a Kadasvisvari is the consort. It's blue. It's the spaciousness of the true mind in which everything is there, the emptiness. We don't get bogged down in all the little dramas in our lives. And so that is a very, very beautiful, beautiful part of all the wisdom. And we begin to see it. We begin to see that everything is changing in both our skandhas, in our poisons, in everything. The poison is ignorance and delusion here. The principle of the 5 wisdoms and 5 Buddha families are not purely abstract or archaic concepts. We can embody them and practice them in everyday life now, and not just put them on a high pedestal. The Tantric Buddhist masters taught the way to use these principles in order to enlighten oneself in each and every moment. It may appear that the 5 wisdoms are some kind of perfect, absolute, sublime state of consciousness that is far from our human mind. The descriptions make it sound like there is a static, unchangeable state that only utterly enlightened beings like avatars can experience. It sounds like once you are in that state, you would be in it forever. But the truth is that the model of the 5 wisdoms is very, very practical. And you can take it and change your whole life by looking at the poisons and looking at the skanda which has to be transmuted, which happens when we go into death, and knowing how to be and applying ourselves to this. This is what we're going to see in the bardo of Dhammata. Absolutely exquisite. We can't stay expanded all the time, but we don't have to get caught up in our mind's poisons, and the qualities of the 5 wisdoms can be present in our everyday lives. Now, I added a lot of things just to try and help you to see from what Anam Tupten said, but I think it's a very beautiful way. And you can use this. You can really, really use this. You can use it with your chart. So I did want to get onto the other bardo, but it's too late. So let's use this time for discussion and questions and things you're not sure of. Ask and say, even some of the feelings that you have. I'm so happy to help you with them. It's so important that you understand this and put it into your lives. Nicola, you comment what you felt, because you always got good comments to make.
It was, yeah, I mean, very, very beautiful. And I think it's, if we can see our life as this tapestry of these 5 elements, wisdoms, poisons, and like this dance that continually happens, I think if we can practice that and invite that into our life now, it will be so much easier for us at that time. But it is such a good reminder, because as you say, we go through our life and a day happens and you're busy and you're just seeing, you know, this concrete dualistic reality, and you don't stop to see it in a different way.
Completely, and that's beautiful, and it really is true, because you see your life so differently, especially the poisons, everybody. You know, when you're envious or you're jealous, or which we all have, I suppose, a certain amount of, or you're angry, or you're disappointed, pride. I mean, pride, you know, Ratnasambhava, I forgot to say that the wisdom of equality has pride as its thing. And pride is not only somebody who thinks they're so great. It's somebody who really in a way puts themselves first and really looks down on other people and other things. It's really something that one should look at very, very deeply, because pride, you know, I remember one of the masters, I can't remember who, told me that pride is one of the biggest things that people fail on. Because don't only see pride as an arrogant person. Pride is a very subtle thing. And Ratnasambhava, you know, when you actually see that wisdom of equality, it takes all the pride away. It's absolutely amazing, you know, because you realize, well, what do I think? I'm just on a different part of the wheel of life at the moment. So why do I think I'm greater than anyone else? I'm not. The only reason I know all these wisdoms very well is because I've really worked on them a lot, studied them, say the mantras every single day. I go every morning, every evening, Om Varashana Om. Flood us with the wisdom of the Dharmadhatu. Please consume all ignorance and delusion. And you can add to that. Then I go Om Akshobhya Hum, or Om Vajrasattva Om. Flood us with your beautiful discriminating wisdom. Clear all the angers. As soon as I say that, I know that in that part of the mandala, you know, where you've cleared all the angers, the consciousness is transformed. And when I stop at that, I think the consciousness is transformed. What happens when your consciousness is transformed? Suddenly you're not thinking, I like this, I don't like this, I want this to happen, I need this money, I have to have this, I have to have that. Suddenly you just are completely, your consciousness goes, oh, I'm in the right place at the right time. And there we are. It's so important, you know, when you do it. And I go through all of them every day. Bern's got them. You can get them from her. You can go through them. But you bring them into your life. And when you're in a difficult situation, you just try, like sometimes when I'm really fed up with someone, I actually say to myself, what's the mirror-like wisdom here? What am I learning about myself in this person over here? And that helps me beyond, because there's no mistake that that angry person is in front of you. No mistake, your own creation. Other questions, other comments, talk to me. I want to hear you, because I don't want to go on to the next bardo because it's too confusing if we do it straight away. David, you always have 5 million questions and comments. Let's hear you.
I've just been aware how, my default setting is impure illusory. And it's the SEM, not the RICPA. And it's just an ongoing full-time job to be noticing that I'm stuck in a default of impure illusion, and then have to consciously try and move towards RICPA and the pure illusion. It's a much friendlier neighborhood than the neighborhood which is my mind in its confused dual state of consciousness. So it's a full-time job, and there's no let up, it seems.
There's only a let up when you start to change everything, okay? And really, 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 the greatness of changing everything is just so amazing. If I think of myself, I think I was a horrible little girl. I really do. I think I was selfish. I think I was dominating. I think I was all these sort of things. I had to grow and really expand myself in every conceivable way. But you just look back on your life and you just think, such a stupid, why did I do that? What did I do this for? Why was I like this, And you realize you're just caught in that thing. But 1 minute of realization and you're out. That's the beautiful thing for all of you. I know it takes a lot of training and a lot of effort to really get and understand these. But when you do, it becomes the most exciting part of your whole life. You just realize everything. And when you know, hang on, when I die, there it is. Even if I don't get it, I'm going to see it when I die. I mean, so exciting because, and Ika, for you, they always say that you will see the mandala as you see it. If you see it in a Christian way, that's absolutely fine. My feelings about Jesus are that he was a Buddha. I think he attained the rainbow body at the end of his life. I just think it wasn't called that. It was called something else by the church and everything. But I mean, I have no problem if your mandala is there, if you see the different aspects of wisdom, if you see things as you are. But I think by the time you finished with me, you're going to see all sorts of other things. You're not just going to see that, or you're going to see Jesus as Amitabha or something like that, because you change everything. You change your perceptions, And if you just think about it, I mean, when I was growing up, I really embraced the Judaism because I came from not a religious background, but I came from, my late grandfather was a rabbi. So, my dad was a little bit indoctrinated. And so he taught us to be like that, And so, when I look back, I mean, I did everything thing, but I just remember my Hebrew teacher, because I went every morning on my bike at 7 o'clock to have Hebrew lessons. Okay, that was par for the course because I didn't go to a Jewish school. And then one day, I remember the Hebrew teacher clapping me as they did to children in those days. You know, now you'd get fired. But he gave me a clap and he said to me, "You ask too many questions," he said to me. "Why don't you just, I still remember, why don't you just accept what I'm telling you? You know, according to the book." I asked questions and questions and questions. Okay. And I remember a very, very special moment. I must end now, so you can go. But I remember a very special moment in my life. You know, I very rarely, my father was an advocate and he had this office, you know, in the middle of the city, which is how it was in those days. And I remember I had to go and get something from him. So I took the bus and I went in. I was probably, you know, late teens or something like that. And we were sitting over his desk, something I never really did very often with him. And he said to me, "Melanie, what is God?" And I remember saying, "Dad, after all your years of prayer, do you not understand what God is?" And I remember telling him, you know, God, we can't see God as this person in the sky with a beard, you know, and books and everything. I said to him, we have to incorporate that into ourselves. And so for me, you know, God is something that is inside me. And he listened to me and talked to me. I mean, later in his life, he actually came to my groups, you know, which is really funny because in the beginning, when he came to a lot of my groups, he used to go at the back so nobody would see him. You know, we didn't have recordings or anything. And then by the end, I mean, he was already in his 80s and everything. He'd just walk in and loved coming to learn about all the spirituality and everything. And I remember saying to him, "Dad, please, when you leave this physical body, just remember, leave all the dogma behind. You know, go to your freedom." I said, "You've got so much and you've got such a wonderful mind. Free yourself." And he said he would. And when he died, I had such a beautiful time with him, because when all the family came to cry, and I didn't have these teachings yet, but I actually told everybody to go out, and I told him to see the being he needed, and that was one of the archangels that he really liked in the Jewish tradition. And I said, go, don't be bound here, and go. And I talked him through in my own way. Don't ask me how. So you look back and you see all of this, and it was always inside me. Bereavement was inside me because right at a very early age, people who'd lost their children came to me at a very early age, like when I was 20, 21. And I just remember, I wonder why they're here. They were here because this was always in me, and I really had to help these people to go beyond the grief and the bereavement that they had of death. So ponder all of that, and let's dedicate to, especially to all those in the bardos, especially for those that have had terrible deaths and terrible traumas and terrible things in their deaths. May they see that this is just temporary, transient, just a drama that happened, and that they now can be free when they come to their death. And may everybody be free from that. Through this merit, may we achieve all-seeing Buddhahood, and thereafter, once all harmful enemies have been defeated, they're all internal, may all beings be liberated from the ocean of existence, stirred by the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Sonam die tamje zipane topne nepe dranam pamshene Jegana ji bala drupaye sipe sole doa dro warsho. Right.